Welcome to LinesToGo installation videos. Today we will be replacing brake lines on a 2006 Dodge Dakota using LinesToGo part number BLD-168-SS. While this particular installation is being performed on a 2006 Dakota, this set of lines will also fit the following year, make, and models as shown on your screen now. LinesToGo lines are made using original equipment end forms and fittings that are CNC bent for an easy and precise installation. We have also upgraded to stainless steel braided Teflon hoses for rust protection and to prevent surface fouling. These have an unlimited shelf life and anti-static PTFE liner. This set of LinesToGo lines are made using 304L stainless steel for rust resistance that exceeds OEM standards. Tech tip: disconnect the battery before working on a vehicle to reduce the risk of shorting out the battery on tools or lines. LinesToGo lines are made with a sectional design for easier installation. We also use color-coded unions on our sectioned lines. Just match the colors at the connections. Make sure to depressurize the fuel system before starting the installation. Tools required: 10mm, 13mm, 15mm, and 22mm sockets and ratchet, 8mm, 10mm, 11mm, 12mm, 13mm, and 14mm wrenches, Phillips and flat blade screwdrivers, cutting pliers, drain pan, jack and jack stands. The level of difficulty for this installation is considered to be medium. To depressurize the fuel system, locate the fuel pump fuse using your owner's manual and remove it. Start the vehicle and wait for the engine to stall. Make sure to replace the fuse once completed. Start by disconnecting the negative battery terminal using a 10mm wrench. Use a Phillips screwdriver to remove the two plastic push clips that secure the fuse box into position. Lift up on the fuse box and disconnect all of the electrical connectors on the bottom and set the fuse box off to the side. Next, use a 10mm and a 13mm socket to remove the bolts that secure the lower fuse box bracket and remove the bracket from the vehicle. Use a 12mm wrench to remove the two threaded fittings from the master cylinder. Use a 12mm wrench to remove the two threaded fittings from the ABS module. Remove the secondary brake line from the vehicle. Raise and support the vehicle. Remove all four wheels using a 22mm socket. Inside of the left front wheel well, use a 12mm wrench to remove the two threaded fittings from the top of the frame-mounted unions. Remove the primary brake line along with the frontmost section of the rear brake line from the vehicle. Use a 12mm wrench to remove the threaded fittings from the top of the left front flex hose along with the outward-facing fitting in the front frame-mounted union. Remove the left front brake line from the vehicle. Use a 12mm wrench to remove the inboard-facing fitting in the front frame-mounted union. Use a 12mm wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the top of the right front flex hose. Inside of the front frame rails, use a pick or screwdriver to open the plastic clips that secure the right front brake line. Using a pair of cutting pliers, cut the right front brake line on the passenger side between the front axle and the steering rack. Remove the passenger side section of the right front brake line from the vehicle. Next, cut the line on the driver's side between the axle and the steering rack using a pair of cutting pliers. Remove the two remaining sections of the right front brake line from the vehicle. At the left rear wheel well, use a 10mm socket to remove the forward inner fender from the vehicle. Use a flat blade screwdriver to loosen the gear clamp at the fuel filler neck and remove the hose from the filler neck. Depress the plastic tab on the vapor line quick connect fitting to disconnect it. At the front of the tank, remove the vent hose from the connection at the frame along with disconnecting the vapor line quick connect fitting by depressing the plastic tabs. Place a support underneath the fuel tank and use a 15mm socket to remove the two nuts that secure the fuel tank straps. Rotate the straps to remove them from the frame. Start to lower the fuel tank while making sure to route the fuel filler hose over the top of the frame. Once the tank is low enough, disconnect the two electrical connectors. Disconnect the supply line quick connect fitting by depressing the two plastic tabs. Continue to lower the fuel tank and remove it from underneath the vehicle. Use a 12mm wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the top of the rear flex hose. If the fitting is seized to the line, you can cut the line close to the fitting and then remove the fitting using a socket or wrench. Remove the rear brake line from the plastic clips along the frame. Cut the rear brake line at the center and remove the rear section from the vehicle. Use a 12mm wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the rear of the rear frame mounted union inside of the left front wheel well. Remove the forward section of the rear brake line from the vehicle. At the rear of the axle, use a 12mm wrench to remove both threaded fittings from the rear flex hose union. Use a flat blade screwdriver to open up the two metal tabs that secure the brake lines to the axle. Use a 12mm wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the left rear wheel cylinder and remove the left rear brake line from the vehicle. Next, use a 12mm wrench to remove the threaded fitting from the right rear wheel cylinder and remove the line from the vehicle. To begin the installation of your new LinesToGo stainless steel brake lines, start by installing the right rear axle line labeled 06B into position. Start one fitting into the right rear wheel cylinder and the other fitting into the rear flex hose union. Secure the line using the plastic clip along with the metal tab. Tighten the fitting in the wheel cylinder using a 12mm wrench and the fitting in the flex hose union using a 10mm wrench. Next, install the left rear LinesToGo axle line labeled 06A into position. Start one fitting into the left rear wheel cylinder and the other fitting into the rear flex hose union. Secure the line using the plastic clip along with the metal tab. Tighten the fitting in the wheel cylinder using a 12mm wrench and the fitting in the flex hose union using a 10mm wrench. Next, install the rearmost section of the rear LinesToGo brake line labeled 05C into position. Start the rear threaded fitting into the top of the rear flex hose. Secure the line into the plastic clips along the frame. Tighten the rear fitting using a 10mm wrench. Install the next section of the rear brake line labeled 05B into position. Start the front threaded fitting into the rear-facing port in the rearmost frame-mounted union. Connect the two sections of line using the supplied union, noting the LinesToGo color-coded connection. Secure the line into the plastic clips along the frame. Tighten the LinesToGo union using a 10mm and a 13mm wrench. Tighten the front fitting using a 10mm wrench. Next, install the first section of the right front LinesToGo brake line labeled 04A into position. Start the threaded fitting into the forward inboard-facing port in the front frame-mounted union. Install the next section of the right front LinesToGo brake line labeled 04B into position. Connect the two sections on the driver's side using the supplied union noting the LinesToGo color-coded connection. Next, install the final section of the right front LinesToGo brake line labeled 04C into position. Start one fitting into the top of the right front flex hose by hand. Connect the sections of line on the passenger side using the supplied union noting the LinesToGo color-coded connection. Secure the right front brake line into the plastic clips along the frame. Tighten the unions using a 10mm and a 13mm wrench. Tighten the fitting in the frame-mounted union using an 11mm wrench. Tighten the fitting in the right front flex hose using a 10mm wrench. Next, install the left front LinesToGo brake line labeled 03 into position. Start one fitting into the left front flex hose and the other fitting into the outward-facing port in the front frame-mounted union. Tighten both fittings using a 10mm wrench. Next, install the secondary LinesToGo brake line labeled 02 into position. Start one fitting into the front port in the master cylinder and the other fitting into the bottom port in the ABS module by hand. Tighten both fittings using a 14mm wrench. Next, install the final section of the rear LinesToGo brake line labeled 05A into position. Start the bottom fitting into the top of the rear frame-mounted union. Start the top fitting into the top port in the ABS module by hand. Tighten the fitting in the ABS module using a 12mm wrench and the fitting in the union using a 14mm wrench. Next, install the primary LinesToGo brake line labeled 01 into position. Start one fitting into the rear port in the master cylinder by hand and the other fitting into the top of the front frame-mounted union. Tighten the fitting in the union using a 10mm wrench and the fitting in the master cylinder using a 12mm wrench. Bleed all four wheels using an 8mm and a 10mm wrench, making sure to keep the master cylinder reservoir topped up with fluid. Next, position the fuel tank back underneath the vehicle and begin to raise it into position. Once the tank is high enough, connect the supply line quick connect fitting along with the two electrical connectors. Continue to raise the tank into position. Replace the fuel tank straps and secure them using a 15mm socket. Connect the two vent hoses at the front of the fuel tank. Inside of the left rear wheel well, connect the smaller vapor line along with the fuel filler hose. Tighten the clamp on the fuel filler hose using a flat blade screwdriver. Replace the forward section of the left rear inner fender and secure it using a 10mm socket. Replace all four wheels and torque to your manufacturer's recommended specification using a 22mm socket. Replace the lower fuse box bracket and secure it using a 10mm and a 13mm socket. Replace all of the electrical connectors underneath the fuse box. Secure the fuse box using the plastic push clips removed earlier. Connect the negative battery terminal and tighten it using a 10mm wrench. This concludes the installation of stainless steel brake lines on a 2006 Dodge Dakota using LinesToGo part number BLD-168-SS. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or would like to purchase the lines you saw today, please call us at 1-855-781-5992. Email us at info@linestogo.com or check out our website link below. Don't forget to take advantage of our free next day shipping. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button below, and we will see you in our next video.